If you've ever wanted to build an app in seconds, you can now do it inside of Microsoft 365 Copilot using the new App Builder Agent. Let me show you how. To access App Builder Agent, open Microsoft 365 Copilot, then click on All Agents, then click on App Builder Frontier, and finally click Open. To get started with App Builder, you'll want to enter a prompt in the input box that clearly describes what you want to build. Now I'll go ahead and paste a prompt in the input box that reads, I want to build a simple time tracking app where I can log my project name, task, date, start time and end time, and have it automatically calculate total hours worked. Next, I'll go ahead and click send. When you enter the prompt, App Builder begins processing. App Builder will cycle between 1 of 13 tasks, and if I scroll down here, you'll actually be able to see what each task is, and you'll be able to read a description of what the App Builder agent is doing throughout the process. Now, it's important to note that this could take anywhere between 2 to 5 minutes, or it can even take anywhere between 5 to 20 minutes, depending on the complexity of the ask. Once the app is generated, App Builder provides an overview of the core features, design elements like color schemes, and the data schema, including tables and validation rules. Now, after the App Builder agent creates an app for the first time, it will open it up as you can see here on the screen. And this is effectively a mode where you can test out the app and then make refinements to it. You can see here that the first part of the app is the Add Time Entry section. Here I can click into the project field and you can see here that this is a drop-down field that will allow me to select a project. Next, I can go ahead and enter in a description of the task that I performed on this project. And there is a date field that allows me to click into a date picker. Next, I have the start time field and the end time field. And if I scroll down, you can see here that this is displaying a list of previous entries, and there is a summary chart that is currently not populated. Now, this chart is not populated because for some reason, when App Builder created this app and populated it with test data, it did not attribute these tasks here to a project. If I want to make changes to this app, I can simply refine the app by entering additional prompts. Now I'll paste in a prompt here that reads, change the app background outside of the add entry, history, and summary sections to a light blue color, add a submit button to the add time entry section, and update the 3 existing sample entries so that each one references one of the projects. I'll go ahead and click send, and you can see here that it completed processing my request. It added the save entry button and a submit button, but you'll also notice that it went ahead and changed the background for each of these different form sections, even though that is contrary to the instruction that I gave it. Now, I have asked App Builder to implement several different changes, including removing the save button that was added here, changing the background color of these cards and the submit button, stacking these fields here in the add time entry card. And I also asked it to fix the relationship between the tasks and projects. And you can see here now that the summary chart is correctly aggregating the time spent on each project. Now, to really demonstrate the power of the App Builder agent, I'm going to push the boundaries and ask it to implement a few changes. First, I will enter a prompt that reads, add a filter button to the previous entry section to filter the list. I'll go ahead and click send. And you can see here that it processed that request. I'll scroll down and I can see this show filters button. I'll click on this and you can see here that I can now quickly filter this list by a specific project. And you can see that it will respond once I select a project. I'll set this back to all projects, and it also implemented a filter by date. And I will select the date here and you can see that it will reduce the list of projects to show only those tasks that took place on those dates. Now I'll clear this and I will select November 5th. And you can see here that it implemented that filter pretty quickly. Now I will ask the agent to apply those filters in the previous entries card to the chart in the summary card as well. I'll click send, and you can see here that the task is complete. And I will go ahead and test the filter again. And this time I will just quickly select one of these projects. You can see here that now the previous entries filter and the summary chart as well. Now, another example of what you can do with the App Builder agent is you can ask it to implement default values on your form and validation rules. So I'll paste in this prompt that reads, can you set the default date to the current date, the default start and end time to the current time, and also make sure that the end time can't be earlier than the start time, and show a pop-up message if someone tries to do that. I'll click send. And again, you can see here that App Builder was able to process that request fairly quickly. The date field is now set to default to the current date, and the start and end time is also set to default to help simplify data entry. Now I will click submit. You can see here the end time is 6 a.m. The start time is 6:09. I'll click submit. And you can see here that it indeed implemented a pop-up that says the end time must be after the start time. All right, now for the final change that I want to demonstrate, I'm going to ask App Builder Agent to implement a control on my form. Specifically, I am going to ask it to add a button above the add entry field that starts and stops the timer to record how long I work on a task. And you can see here that it added the button, and the description also aligns with what I asked. Now let's go ahead and let's try this out. I'll click the start timer. That's pretty cool. You can see that the timer button automatically changed colors. You can see here that these fields are sort of grayed out, which means I can't edit them. Now I'll just pause the video, let some time lapse, and then I'll come back in here and finish my entry to see if it worked. All right, now I have let some time lapse. I'll click stop timer. You can see here it displayed a pop-up message that said timer stopped. Start and end times have been updated. You can see that those times have updated. I'll go ahead and click submit, and my entry is now saved successfully. Now, when you finish designing an app in App Builder, in order to make sure that all of the latest changes are published, what you'll want to do is click on this update button. You can see here that the updates have saved, and now that means that all of these enhancements that I've made to the application are going to be saved and will be visible to anyone that you've given access to. Now, once you are ready to share this app with users, there are a few different ways that you can do it. And the first way that you can do it is by clicking on this share button here. I'll go ahead and click this option, and I will click on share. And you can see here that this is going to bring up a dialog box where you can select specific users who you would like to share this app with. I'll go ahead and select my colleague Diego. And it's important to note that you cannot change the permissions here. You can see when I click on the permission icon, it is going to say that this user can use the app only. Now I'll click grant access. You can see here that access was granted, and now Diego will be able to access this app. Now I will go ahead and close out of the application. And if I want to access the application after I created it, I can come back into Microsoft 365 Copilot, click on the App Builder Agent, and here I can access the application itself. And if I click on the three dots here, you can see that I can edit this app. I can also share it from here. I can delete it. And if I want to actually go ahead and use it, I can click on this play button, and that is going to open the application for me to use. It's important to note that all of the components created by App Builder are hosted on a dedicated SharePoint Online site that's automatically provisioned when the app is created. Now, this is displayed when you first create the app, but if you did not actually record the URL to that SharePoint site, here's a little tip. You can click into your App Builder agent, find your app, and click on the edit button. And you can see here that it will provide a prompt with the link to the actual SharePoint site that it provisioned. Next, I'll go ahead and click on this, and you can see here that I've been taken to the SharePoint site. These sites will all start with the name App Builder followed by a dash and then the name of your app. Now, within this SharePoint site, all of the data that is processed through the app is going to be stored in one or more SharePoint lists that the agent creates. In my case, you can see here that I have two lists that it created. The first is called projects, and this is used to store the actual project records that display in the project dropdown. Now you can actually edit these records from the list. You can delete these test records that were created by the App Builder agent, and you can also add new ones. Next, I'll click into time entries, and this is the list that it's set up in order to store the actual time entries. And in case you are wondering how the actual permissions were set up on the SharePoint site, I will click on the Site Access button. And how this works is that the App Builder agent will set the site owner to the individual that actually created the app, and any users that the app is shared with will automatically be added to the site members group. And it is important to note that there are several known limitations of the App Builder agent as published by Microsoft at the time of recording this tutorial. I will go ahead and scroll down here to bring up the list of limitations. And before reviewing these, the first and most important one is that in order for a user to be able to access an app built through the App Builder agent, they must have a Microsoft 365 Copilot chat license. Now you can see here Microsoft lists approximately 11 known limitations. I have included a link to this article in the description of the video below, but there are a couple that I do want to highlight. And the first one is that according to the documentation, the SharePoint list columns created behind the scenes cannot be edited once App Builder generates them. Additionally, another important one here is number 5 on the list, which is the app names cannot be changed after the app is initially generated. And I'll also point out number 10 here that clearly highlights that SharePoint sites are managed separately. If you delete an app in the App Builder agent, it will not delete that SharePoint site. So that is how you can build an app in seconds inside of Microsoft 365 Copilot using the App Builder agent. If you found this video helpful, drop a comment below, give it a like, and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on the latest tutorials that I publish. And while you're here, check out one of these videos. You might find them useful.